So one of the specific challenges with harp music is the actual formatting of it. So in today's video, we're going to talk about formatting your pedal charts and pedal changes in Sibelius. We're going to talk a little bit about why we would want to include those. So if you don't use Sibelius, you'll probably still find the first part of this video helpful, and then we'll talk about some more Sibelius specific tips in the second half. Hi, I'm Danielle Kuntz, and I am a new music harpist and harp notation coach, and I am here to help you learn how to write for the harp with creativity, confidence, and we're going to talk about the clarity side of it today. So I have been a long time Sibelius user. I am dabbling in other notation softwares as well at the moment, but one of the things that I've been exploring with Sibelius is how to best notate the pedals. I have found over time that the pedal plugins are useful tools, but you do definitely want to double check them because they don't always put things in at the best place. But before we dive into all the nuances and all of that, let's talk first about all the different kinds of pedal markings that you might want to be including in your pedal chart. There are two types of pedal markings that we would want to include in the score. We have the pedal charts and we have the pedal changes. We'll talk more about those in detail in a separate video, but just your high-level summary, the pedal chart, also referred to as the pedal diagram, pedal graph, that just essentially will show you the layout of the pedals at any given time. So that's most useful to include at the start of a piece, or at rehearsal changes or specific places like glissandi where you want to make sure that the pedals are laid out appropriately. This is not a substitute for pedal changes. So the pedal change is where you're actually marking the step-by-step pedal change. So this is usually notated by letter name accidental, so like a D natural, D sharp, and so on and so forth. If you have a pedal chart, you still have to include the pedal change. The pedal change chart does not substitute for the pedal change. Now, the big controversy is whether or not you should actually include them in the scores. There's some harpists that feel very strongly that they want to write in their own pedal charts, own pedal markings. Other harpists feel that the composer at least should be thinking through them through this process to ensure that it's playable. If you're not thinking about pedal changes at all, the odds of writing something that's completely unplayable go up astronomically. My personal opinion is that I think that you should be thinking through them, marking them in the score, and then if you have the opportunity to have a harpist double check them and know that they're accurate, then it is helpful to go ahead and put them in your part. We have whiteout, we can move them around, and I often will move pedal changes around myself, and I just have my tablet, use whiteout, I move them around, but it is helpful to have them in there. It saves me a lot of work. If you've done the work, there's no reason for me to undo it. That's my opinion, but it is really important to ensure that what you have in the part is accurate, because incomplete or inconsistent or wrong pedal changes are actually more frustrating than not having them in the first place. So let's talk really quickly about the pedal chart. And I addressed this a little bit earlier in the video, but the purpose of that is to show you what the pedal layout should be. So this is really helpful, especially in orchestral music. If we're having rehearsals and we're stopping and starting in the middle of a piece, we don't want to go back to the beginning and track through and figure out what our pedal layout is going to be at that time. We need to know what it is at that time. So it is really helpful to have that, after long rests, if we have like a multi-measure tacit for 12 or more measures, have a pedal change after that. At rehearsal letters is really helpful, or if there's just like a big key shift, that would also be useful as well. In addition, it's helpful to have it at the beginning of the score, particularly if the initial pedal layout is different from the notated key signature. So the way to generate this in Sibelius, you can use the pedal plugin. So as you can see at this example I have here, I have the pedal chart at the beginning. Ignore the second line of the pedal chart at the beginning. I have my pedal changes in the second measure. I'm going to delete these. We're going to regenerate them. So in order to generate the pedal change, and I love using the pedal plugin to create the pedal charts. I find that especially helpful. So I am actually going to just create it for the first measure because I know the pedal layout for that is going to be all naturals. So you'll go under Home, you'll go to Plugins, you'll be able to find the Add Harp Pedaling. I'm just going to add it to the selected passage. I want it to be a diagram, and unused strings can be set to natural in this case. So I get my pedal chart. I like to put it in the middle. I think it looks a little bit nicer than having it offset toward the top, but this is a really quick way to go ahead and then just generate your pedal markings. And you can do this for anywhere. Just select your passage, go to plugins, add harp pedaling, and we're just going to generate the pedal chart. And you can see the second measure, there are pedal changes, so it gives me a different pedal diagram than I had in the first measure. Now, I don't need this pedal chart in the second measure because I have it in the previous measure. But this is a really quick way to be able to generate your pedal charts. You do sometimes need to double check what you're doing to make sure that the chart is actually generating correctly and taking into account where you're coming from as well as the pedals that you need in that specific measure. I have been known to go just into an empty measure if it's not really generating my pedal chart correctly. I've been known just to go in and write out a scale and then create my pedal chart. I get it there, and then I can cut and paste it where I want it. So this is how you will create a pedal chart in Sibelius. Now the pedal change, this is a little bit trickier, and I find that Sibelius is a little bit less helpful for this one. To create the pedal change, number one, these need to happen where the actual change is happening. So as I mentioned earlier, you're going to be notating that with letter name, accidental. Something that I see a lot is I will see people notating where the pedal change is coming from and where it's going. So like B flat to natural, that's not necessary. As soon as my foot's on the pedal, I know where it is. All I need to know is where it's going. So you're just going to be saying B natural, D sharp, C flat, whatever you have there. So I find it a little bit tricky to use the plugin for this. However, it is definitely possible. So I'm going to just go ahead and remove these pedal charts. And we're going to add in our pedal changes. So we're going to do it for the selected passage. So there's a couple considerations when it comes to formatting these pedal changes. First is Sibelius will put them as early as possible. This is generally not helpful because pedal changes most of the time should be changed as late as possible or on the soonest strong beat. So if the pedal change is happening in the middle of the beat, generally the change will be happening on the beat. The second thing is pedal markings can be placed either in the middle of the staff or below the staff. In a perfect world, it would all be consistent, but sometimes there's not room in the middle and sometimes it looks messy below. So whatever you do, it needs to be consistent throughout the entire score rather than being half one, half the other. So I am going to go ahead and move these. Right now, it looks like there's going to be more room in this case to have them in the middle. So I'm going to go ahead and align this B flat here. I'm going to align the C sharp here, and I'm going to actually just move these down to give myself a little more room. I would rather it be in the middle of the staff. Now the C flat I want to happen here, and the B here. Now another thing that you can do, and we'll talk about this in the second system when we get there, but if you have a quickly happening pedal change where the harpist is never actually going to be notching the pedal, you can indicate that with a dash rather than a separate pedal change. So we can go back and I can just use this dash right here. No, actually, it's not the one I want. I want this one. It's the little dash that connects. Boop, boop. There we go. And then I can use the shortcut to write my pedal change. And then I have to move it because it doesn't like the placement. Often what you need to do with these is just turn off the magnetic layout so you can align things the way that they need to be aligned. And I clearly took out my sharp, so let's add that back in. So this is a way that you can do that pedal change to make it look a little bit better. Another picky thing is that it's not really aligned with the other notes in the system, so we're going to just align those all a little bit better. So this is the quick way to be able to notate these pedals here. Now if you wanted them below, you can just slide them below. All right, now this next example, this is from a score that I edited, used by permission from the composer. So we're going to go through and talk about the formatting of these pedals. So the first thing, this is from the actual score. That one got moved a little bit. I don't like that. Slide that over. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to just delete these pedal changes and we're going to actually go in and add them ourselves. So first we're going to just use the plugin, see what's going on. All right, so it looks like a mess. I'm going to just create a pedal chart right here. I'm going to move this right here. So you notice this looks very different from the previous example up there. We have this A flat that's happening way in advance, and then we have all of these weird italics going on, which I personally find annoying. I would rather them just look uniform. So the first thing is let's go ahead and just slide the pedal changes over to where they're needed. So we need our A flat here. The thing that Sibelius is doing that is helpful is it is stacking the pedal changes. So we have our right foot pedal changes on top and we have our left foot pedal changes below. That is useful and I would recommend doing that. It's a little bit easier to read if it's all uniform. Okay, so we have this and then we're going to slide this group of pedal changes over here. So now what we can do, and you notice so the first thing is there's not really enough room here to have the pedal changes in the middle of the score. In the score that I copied this from, there was room just because the formatting was a little bit different. But in this case, I'm just going to slide these down below. It gives us a little bit more room to work with. And I'm trying, I can zoom in a little bit. To make sure that everything's aligned a little bit better. Okay, so the first thing that we have is, you notice in this example, I had a D natural that's sharp. And the reason for that is because we're coming from a flat. We have a D flat over here. So rather than doing a quick flat to sharp pedal change, we might as well just do a natural. So I'm going to go ahead and just add in a D natural, and let's go to text and let's get out of this bold because we don't need it to be bolded. So we're going to write in D natural. And then we can go ahead and use our, nope. It keeps putting me in a really weird font here. Let's go back to the Pel, Lindo type. There we go. Now I can actually use this. Not that. Yes, and this is a pain, as you can imagine. So we don't actually have to notch the pedals here. So we're just going to use this, and we're going to go ahead and just remove and I'm going to just realign that a little bit better. There we go. Go ahead and just do the dash because that's not actually needed. So let's go ahead and do the same thing down here. There we go. And again, does not need to be bolded. Let's go back to this and we'll go ahead and use our shortcut to type in the sharp. Okay, so now this looks like what we have up here. Well, except for this example up here, I used their dash over here, which looks a little bit better than what I typed in. That could be up to you. So now we have our little cluster of pedal changes that's going to happen here on these first two beats. And you'll notice in the example, flat, then F sharp, and then here Sibelius gave us F natural, then A flat. Doesn't really matter. There is enough time, but in a perfect world, I would rather not go move my foot from A to F and then back to A. Might as well just change A first. Also, I do not like these, whatever's going on here. So let's get out of the bold italic, go back to regular, A flat, nope. I know the shortcut's just not well enough. And then F, and again, it keeps putting me in the Helsinki font. natural. And then down here, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to get out of our bold italic. Just go back to regular. That's all we need. And since this pedal change here is happening during rests, we don't necessarily need to go natural to sharp. We can just go ahead and just make that change going straight to natural. So this is how you can generate your pedal changes. If you prefer to just type it in rather than using the pedal generator and then redoing the pedal generator, you can use the expression marking, and this is just go un-italicize it, and then you can just type in your pedal change. This is a bogus pedal change, obviously, and then slide it where you want it. Honestly, this is what I do most of the time, but sometimes it is helpful just to use the pedal generator and then edit it. The next consideration is, what do you do for parts and scores? So in order to do that, I'm going to go ahead and pause. When you're writing a orchestral piece is that you might not need to actually include the pedal changes and pedal charts and all of the stuff in the score. Number one, it clutters up the score. It gives information that the conductor doesn't actually need to know. So you can use the show hide feature. So right now we have the pedal changes shown in the, but not in the score. So what you do, this is a little bit tedious. If anyone knows a great shortcut for this, let me know in the comments. But you'll just highlight it and then go to hide or show. And then right now we're just going to show in all so you can see what's going on here. So this F natural now, if I go over to the score, measure 18, you see that pedal change right there. Now, if I don't want it to show up in the score, but I want it to show up in the part, I can go ahead and go back to hide or show, and then I can show in parts. So now it's no longer in the score, but you still see it in the part. We can do the exact same thing with this pedal chart here. Show in all, so then we go back over to the score. You see it right there. Again, it's not needed in the score. It doesn't give information to the conductor. This is another reason, this is a tangent. This is another reason why it's helpful to actually show the pitches of the glissando, because the pitches are useful for the conductor. The pedal chart is not. Conductor probably isn't going to be fluent in reading pedal charts. Conductor is probably going to know how to read them, but not fluently. So the pitches would be a really useful tool to have there. I'll go ahead and link the other video I have that talks more about the glissandi. But again, we don't need this in the score, so we'll go ahead and go over to hide or show. We'll show in parts. So now it's no longer there, but it's still here. That's everything I have as far as pedal notation in Sibelius. If you have questions, go ahead and leave a comment. If you have tips, anything that you found that helps your workflow, that I would love to learn about, let me know in the comments as well. In the meantime, I hope you will go ahead and subscribe to my harp tips emails. I send out every 2 weeks. I send out an email with some little harp tips, whether notation, writing, just fun things to learn about writing for the harp. And then go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you get an alert every time I get a new video, and I will see you next time. Bye.